blueberries do have a huge amount of flavour.
Well,
Hunky. Is it 1982?
some old.
Oh, you're so hunk. What a hunk. These are the I can't even say it.
Okay.
I've got it now.
Okay.
Exist. But one man is about to... No.
Oh, that was so close.
Who knew that 5 words was so difficult to remember? And I don't think blueberries taste like blueberry flavoured things.
Blueberry flavoured. Okay, shot 24. This is...
Look at birds. Oh, birds. They're flying into the building. They're
Ready?
going down and swooping. What shot was it?
27.
Who am I?
Mr. Bean. Man, is there toilet paper in there? I said, yes. He went, sweet. And so I did this, turned and walked off. It's episode 102, and I'd like to welcome you all. Yes.
That was very nice.
I know.
Very, very nice welcome.
Well, there you go. Now, we were very ill last episode.
We weren't very ill. We
Really?
were
Are you still ill now from the illness of last
kind of
episode?
still a bit ill.
So-
yeah.
So please now leave it out there. We were very
Okay,
ill last episode.
okay.
You didn't sit editing out all the coughs and
Oh, right.
nose
Fair-
blows and splutters.
Fair enough. And we are still a bit ill. It's like, it's kind of this residual
Summer colds,
congestion-y nonsense
rubbish.
stuff.
aren't they?
They are. It does. This cold has felt different actually to...
A winter cold.
Well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe
Yes.
it's just different viruses around in summer than in winter.
Yeah. I mean, I suspect that it was also a run-down hit of illness.
Well, it might have been.
Because
yeah.
if you think we've just come out the back of episode 100
Yeah.
and we worked our cotton socks off with
Yeah, we
with
were
all
busy.
the additional bits and pieces for that one, and then really it hit us because episode 101 and we were coughing and sneezing. Kay actually said before it started, this will be the no, I don't even think can I say this will be the episode of phlegm? Because that's
Did
what
I
you
say
said.
that? Did I?
Of course, I
colds
cut
are
that
just
out.
so horrible, aren't they? You know, we all have them. So.
Kay also said, and rightly so, you know, they have developed ways of defeating all sorts of illnesses, but why is it the common
we
cold?
still get the cold.
It clearly is what happens when you get run down.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think sometimes if you're working to something, aren't you? If you like, for example, you're working to some big deadline. Which
What, you mean like episode 100?
Yeah, which is what we were doing, you know, but everybody in their work environment. Once
Yes.
you've got through that, your
body
body then
relaxes.
just goes, whoa. Yeah. And that's when it becomes, I think, susceptible to
Yes,
these things.
susceptible. It's a
I
better
can't
word.
say that word.
Yeah, I'd
That's
say
a
we go
very long
susceptible.
word, isn't it?
But, you know, I'm eager to launch a whole new segment.
Right.
It's a one-off segment.
All right.
So this is one of those things that... Were you trying to look then to try and see what I was about to say?
Yeah, I
You're
know
naughty.
what it
Stop
is.
it. This new segment... No! This new segment is called Conversations You Would Never Expect to Have in the Cinema. When you go to the cinema, sitting, for me, I can't sit for too long. Well, you know, a couple of hours. There's no way I can sit for 2 hours without needing to pop to the little boys' room.
Well, I'm exactly the same.
So, off I toddled to the little boys' room, and I went to the little boy room.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, went to the little boys' room, came out, and literally in front of me was a vision of coolness. I mean, this was the coolest looking guy I have ever seen in my life. So immediately I was a bit startled. I could smell cologne.
But he works there,
Yes,
didn't
yes,
he? He was
yes.
an employee at the
I'm
cinema.
not going to say aftershave, because a dude like that, he wears cologne.
Right.
And he said to me, before I had time to even think, "Man, is there toilet paper in there?" I said, "Yes." He went, "Sweet." And sort of did this, turned and walked off. And I just stood there for like, and I'm thinking, did that really just happen? I've just seen the vision of...
You must have looked so cool for him to ask you that question, because he wouldn't have asked, like maybe not
an
everyone.
old fella or someone in...
You must have looked cool-worthy for him to ask if there was toilet roll in the toilet.
He
You
said
obviously
paper.
saved him going in and out to
"Hey man,
check.
is there any paper in there?" Yeah, there is. Sweet. And it was gone. It was great. And, you know, it was just great. I went back and and tell the girls. I was like laughing my head off.
Not in the cinema, you didn't tell us when we came in.
I did. I told you when we sat down.
Because they hadn't started yet.
It was the trailers.
Oh, that's right. It hadn't started.
I was trying to preempt the need for a visit, as you do. And I adopted a different strategy the last time we went. I thought I'll go as near to the start of the... Yeah, I went before the trailer started because I didn't want to miss the trailers. Still didn't work. I think it's mental.
It is
Do
mental.
you?
When
It's
you
mental.
think I'm trapped,
Yes.
you instantly want to go for a wee.
Yeah.
And the last 3 times we've been to the cinema, I've ended up sat next to some random stranger.
The last time we
Because
went...
Dan always bags the aisle seat. I've got to have the aisle seat because I've got long legs. Even though we pay for the more luxurious seats that have more leg room, he still has to have the aisle seat. So then Bryony was next to him and then I was next to Bryony. Every single time, even though the cinema's not been that full, I've had some random stranger next to me. You know, completely empty seats all around. No, right next to me.
And the last time, it was like Kay was with the guy. It's like I was like...
Right, it was this
Who was
fella.
I?
It was this fella and his son. His son was about Bryony's age. They sat down and I was like... And I'd got my drink on the wrong side, you know, it should have been on the other side. So I moved it from his side, effectively, over to mine. And he said to me, oh, it's all right, you don't need to move it. We haven't got any drinks.
We're going to sit for the next 3 hours and have no drink.
And I said to him, I couldn't not say anything. I never talked to strangers, but I just thought, this is just too weird.
Could you not have a drink?
I said to him, you haven't got a drink or snacks or anything. And he got his son with him and he's like, oh, no, they're too expensive at the cinema.
So bring one.
Bring one, sneak it in. That's what everybody does. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I shouldn't tell you that. I don't do that.
I doubt View is watching, Kay.
No, okay.
The manager of View has a monitoring system.
They're going to be checking my bag this time, aren't they? Have you got liquids in that bag and snacks? We buy popcorn and you always have those ridiculous blue drinks.
Well, it's only because, you know, you end up buying a couple of things, and the last 2 times I've got it because it's been cheap. I really like it.
It's like, and that's the other thing, isn't it, right?
You buy 2 things, it comes to £10.49, and they say, for £9.99 you can have an extra thing. What?
Oh, what? So it's 50 pence cheaper to have
For me
more
to have a blue
things.
drink.
And
Not very good for the waistline.
Or they'll say, you know, I always have just a small popcorn between me and Bryony, but small is like this, and then we can't even eat half of it.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, for another 20 pence, you can have a medium one. I'm like, I'm not going to eat it.
I don't want it.
It's just wasteful.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can't stand that. And the other day, they were trying to get me to take a chocolate bar, weren't they?
They were. They were like, we can have a chocolate
free.
bar, and it's free.
I don't want it.
And they were like, you don't want it?
No.
Couldn't quite understand it. And he's like,
It will go in the bin.
I'm not going to eat it, you know, so it's just wasteful.
That's shocking. So, yes, look, it's very important that we do... Is it an addendum?
Addendum.
Is that where you make a change?
A change.
Yes. Look, you know what I mean.
Errata, as we say in a knitting pattern.
Last episode, Kay made the shocking statement.
I did.
That she thought the score to The Last Jedi was bad.
Yeah.
She did not mean that score.
I didn't mean The Last Jedi.
And had I not been full of cold, I would have twigged.
Yeah,
I did
felt
sort
really
of think
bad.
in my head, I don't think you mean that.
No, I meant the music of Rogue One.
Yes.
That's what I meant.
Any score that John Williams does, we do love.
Absolutely, yeah.
But The Last Jedi was the weakest of the recent scores. But he's an older guy. He was still superb. It was still leaps and bounds
Rogue
above
One
other
was
people.
dreadful.
Yes.
In every way.
Yes. That's true. That's very true. So yes, very important that we got that out there. But we are loving the solo soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
It is most exceptional. There's not one.
Listen to it every day.
There's not one track on there that I can pick fault with. But we did the whole solo thing last time.
We did.
And it was just important that we did that errata. Can I guess your favourite seasons?
My favourite seasons.
Yes, in order. Can I put your seasons in order?
I would have thought you could.
Well, I know what your favourite one is.
Right.
Because Kay misses autumn.
Indeed, I do miss autumn.
So, is it autumn,
Yes.
spring,
Yeah.
winter,
Yeah.
summer?
Yes.
Yes!
I'd say so.
Come on.
Yeah.
What-
I think that'll be a lot of people's actually.
Well, I'd love to know what your order is for the seasons.
Yeah. We're not even in summer yet. It's not summer, is it? Until solstice, which is 21st, I think, of June.
Right.
So it's not even summer. It's been really, really warm since kind of the beginning of May, hasn't it?
Yes, humid.
Humid.
Very,
yeah.
very humid. Frustratingly humid. I don't live in this country to have humid, sticky weather. If
There's
I wanted
nothing we
that
can
type
do
of
about
weather,
it, though, you
well,
know? I mean,
if I wanted that type of weather, I'd go and live in a country which was famous for that type of
Central
weather.
America or something, yeah.
Yes, but no, that's not what I want. I want to be wet and cold and windy.
We had one day actually where it wasn't sunny and the skies were grey and it was a bit drizzly and I was so happy.
We are English for a reason.
I said to Dan, oh, look, the sun's not out. And, you know, I know that a lot of people really like the sun.
And that's lovely.
everything.
Enjoy
and
it.
That's great. You know, everyone's different, aren't we? But it's just not been very British, the weather, this spring, I don't think. Since the beginning of May, certainly, it hasn't felt very spring-like. It's felt more like our summers.
But even
in
then,
a big long stretch.
And even then, it's weird because the humidity is so high.
Yeah, and we don't normally get hot summers. You know, we might have a spell where you have a couple of weeks where we have a bit of a heat wave, but we don't generally have really hot summers.
No, I mean, I think that it has been changing slowly but surely over the last sort of couple of years. But this is definitely the longest period and the stickiest period I can recall. I can't recall ever going out for a run on a morning, coming back and saying to you, that is the most... I've never done that, apart from about 2 weeks ago, I came back and I said, those are the worst 2 runs. And what was so funny about that was, a day after one of those runs, one of our good friends was running a marathon in the Lake District.
She was.
And I was like, my goodness.
We were worried about you.
If the weather is like this... And it was, I think, because we looked at the weather, because it said 99% humidity. Yeah, not pleasant.
But she did it.
She did. Is your high street dying?
Oh.
I think we need to begin a movement. That sounds wrong.
But can I just tell you, I was thinking about this, and I don't think it's going to make any difference. I think all it's doing is slowing down the inevitable. So we're talking about the fact that shops just are closing down in town centres. Yeah,
and I think it's
going out of business.
It's a terrifying proposition, really. And I think what would be interesting to know would be, what is the state of things on your high street?
Yeah.
You know, is this something that is everywhere? Or is it something which is only in certain places? Because,
I have no clue, actually, if it's worldwide. I don't know. The thing that's happening in our town is we found out that our branch of Marks and Spencer's is closing. And then a couple of days after that, we found out that House of Fraser are closing a load of their stores, including the one in our town as well. And they're the 2 biggest shops in town, aren't they, really? You know, it loses its energy, doesn't it, when these shops close? And it forces you to go somewhere else because they're not there. The shops you want are not there.
I don't think, though, it's right for us to say that this is a losing battle and we might as well just make our peace with it. I think that, you've got to sort of stand up and go...
I agree, but, I've been shopping in these shops. I've been shopping in these shops regularly, so...
Yeah, but we haven't been vocal about it.
Well, no.
It's the first time we've ever spoken about it here. And, if all of us can be as vocal about it as possible and think, okay, I need... You see, the next thing to go, and this would be an absolute disaster in my opinion, is bookshops.
Well,
they're already going. That's why I think it's important that if everyone thinks, how are you going to feel if your town centre is dead, if it's physically impossible for you to go into a shop, pick up an item, look at it, walk to a till and buy it, especially when you consider, I don't know if this is a worldwide thing, but Amazon's prices are rising.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? And Amazon are to blame for a lot.
They know they've got you, and so now the prices are going up.
Yeah.
And, quite dramatically
they're not actually really that much cheaper than...
And also the service levels have gone...
I don't
really
like
dropped.
their delivery thing anymore.
Since they stopped using...
They have their own subcontracted couriers, aren't they?
Yeah.
You just get some fella in a random white van coming and shoving your parcel through your door, and we've had stuff delivered before where they've rammed it through the letterbox that hard that they've broken the letterbox.
There's no
care.
No.
There's no because they're subcontracting, aren't they? They're not actually
it is racing us towards the future, which is portrayed brilliantly in Wall-E.
Yeah.
Where
that's
everyone
true.
is sat
Yeah.
on a very
Yeah.
comfortable chair that floats around. We don't use our feet anymore. Whenever we need anything, we just push a button and it arrives.
Yeah.
You know, yes, as you said a moment ago, Kay, the option is there to do that, but that doesn't make it the right option, does it?
Well, no, I'm not saying that.
What is the situation on your high street? I'd really love to know. You know,
It'll be interesting, yeah.
is it in trouble? Is it thriving?
Yes.
Please do let us know. Now it's time for us to find out. Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Well, I've got 3 new things.
Wow, that's amazing.
This time?
It's 3 brand new projects and nothing else being shown today, is it? It's 3 brand new projects.
3 brand new projects.
So everything that you see, you've never seen before.
How exciting!
Oh my goodness.
The first thing I'm knitting is a shawl. Now, I haven't knit a shawl in months probably.
No.
I've had 0 shawl mojo. And I think the main reason is that, and this is this is my fault because it's how I've reacted to this, but there just seems to be an awful lot of designs out at the moment where the shawls are massive. Now, I like a big shawl. In fact, a very lovely friend gave me a beautiful shawl for my birthday, which I'll show you maybe next time, which is a big shawl. I just don't want to knit them. You know, I don't want to knit three skeins of fingering weight yarn into a shawl and have 600 stitches or whatever, if not more, you know, by the time I get to the end of the shawl. It just...
That gifted shawl was different though, because it was wide rather than deep, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful shawl. I will show you next time.
There seems to be
gorgeous colour.
There seems to be lots of deep shawls.
Yeah, just massive, just absolutely massive shawls.
And when would you wear them?
Well, this is the thing. I just don't know when I would have occasion to wear such a ginormous shawl.
And if I'm honest, I don't rarely see pictures of people wearing ginormous shawls.
No, and you know, I'd be interested to know of the people who are knitting and enjoying knitting these larger shawls. Do you actually wear them often? You know, is it something that you wear? Because I just don't know how to wear these things either. And, you know, especially if you've maybe got a cardigan or a coat on, it would just be... I just don't know how these huge things will be worn. So because I've been seeing a lot of that in new patterns and on podcasts and on Instagram, I just haven't had the motivation to knit a shawl, because you are swayed, aren't you, by things that you see that are kind of popular at the moment, and it just put me off. It just put me off knitting a shawl.
I always think as well, when you put on a big shawl, it tends to remind me of the type of shawls my granny used to wear.
It depends how you wear it, I think, really.
Right.
And, you know, I like the one that my friend gave me recently. It's great because I can wrap it, and it's just like a big sort of scarf, and that's great. But it's these ones that are kind of really deep and really, really wide. I have just no clue how people go about wearing them. And plus, I just don't want to knit that size of a shawl and have all of those stitches at the end. I just feels like such a slog. However, for my birthday, I received another shawl from another lovely friend. And this one, I've seen her knitting several times, and it's just a 1 skein shawl. And I wore it, actually, you will see it in the New Adventures, because I had it on, and it was that day we went out. It was perfect weather day, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was only about 13, 14 degrees C. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to put a shawl on. I was like, oh, brilliant, I can wear one. So I thought, I'm going to wear this new one that another friend had given me for my birthday. And this one's called the Stash Buster. It's by Heather Haynes. It's a paid-for pattern, but it's not very expensive at all, because it's a very simple shawl. But it's a very clever little shawl. And after wearing it all that day, I said to you at the end of the day, this shawl's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it stayed around my neck. What I did with this, I'll show you the shawl. This is the shawl. So it's very long And as you can see, that's the deepest portion just there. And the pattern doesn't have these eyelets. My friend added these eyelets in. It's just a plain garter stitch in the pattern. It's got all these lovely little picots. It's just really pretty. And what I do is I fold it in half. So I put like the little short ends together and then pop that around my neck and put the short end through the loop. So it's kind of like a scarf, you know, I wear it like a scarf, but you've got more fabric up here than a scarf and then less fabric down here that's just hanging. So it's absolutely brilliant. And I just enjoyed wearing it so much that I thought I'm going to go and look at this pattern. So I bought it and I've cast one on and it's just brilliant. And it's literally one skein of yarn. So I think it's great because, you know, we've all got those skeins of yarn, haven't we, that are precious and you may be not sure what to do with it. You don't want to make socks with it. And you don't want to maybe add it into a larger shawl project. So I thought I'm going to cast one on and I've done that and I'm absolutely loving it. So I'll show you the one I've started. I'm using a very lovely skein of yarn and this is from Deb at Fondant Fibre, and I really wanted to use one of her skeins of yarn because she's not dyeing at the moment. She hasn't dyed all this year, I don't think. So, and I'm always thinking about Deb and I hope she's doing well. So I wanted to use a skein of her yarn and I've got quite a lot to go from, luckily. And this one kind of ties in with our Summer of Sorcery because the colourway is Newt. And I'm presuming she based it on Newt Scamander, but I don't know that. But to me, it's Newt Scamander. And it's on her Austin base, which is Superwash Merino, Cashmere and Nylon. And it's this lovely kind of taupey base with specks of a rusty sort of colour, a grey and an olive. It's really lovely.
Sounds awfully like the outfits he wears.
Yeah, and so I think it must be based on him. And it's lovely. Deb at Fondant Fibre. So I thought I'm going to use that because I think this is a great kind of neutral. It will go with tons of things, yet it's still really pretty with the speckles. So I cast one on and this is where I am. You basically just work the same row over and over. So you start down here. It's a very clever little pattern, you know. I'm all for patterns that are simple but really effective, and that's what I always try to achieve with my designs. And this is just one of those that, you know it, you read the pattern, you get going and then you know it and you just keep knitting until you've just got enough left to bind off. You bind off and you're done and you end up with, you know, the lovely shawl that I showed you before.
How do you know when to bind off?
Well, you've just got to make sure you've got enough yarn left to bind off.
How would you know how much you needed?
Well, I think do they say that you need kind of 4 times the length or 3 times the length of your work, something like that.
Is that what you'll do then when you get to the end?
Yeah, and I will just probably eyeball it, and when I've got just this much left or whatever, I'll cast off. And even if you underestimate it, you can just tink back a row and then bind off. It's not kind of the end of the world.
So it's 3 times the length of the bit of knitting that you're knitting on at that moment?
Yes.
Right.
It's either 3 or 4 times. I'll probably do 4 times.
3 times the length of the actual bind off area?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
What else would it be?
I don't know. I've absolutely no clue.
Yeah, so
I'm interested.
If I was going to bind off now,
you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, and that should be enough.
Right.
And then I'll probably add a bit more just to be on the safe side.
Right.
But I actually weighed this shawl because I thought, is that 100 grams? Do you know when you look at something and I think, gosh, is that really 100 grams? I thought maybe it's only 80 grams or whatever. But it's not. It actually weighed about 104 grams, so it must have been a heavy skein. So I think it's just great that is a full 100 gram skein. Yet it's perfectly big enough to wear as, you know, a neck warmer, and it kept my neck lovely and warm. And actually I took it off when we got back in the car, when we finished. I took it off because it was warm in the car and I could really feel the difference around my neck. So it just worked just brilliantly well. So I'm loving this, and I'm just using this as kind of bedtime knitting now because it's so easy. You just need to remember to do a little bit of something on that end, a little bit of something on that end, and everything else is just lovely, relaxing knitting. It's great. And I'm using the pattern called for 4mm. I'm using 3.75 because
Why is that?
I just prefer the look of garter stitch
In 3.75.
in 3.75.
Right.
Isn't it pretty? I just think it'll be one of those things that I'll wear with everything, and I think that's great.
What size are these needles that I'm using?
No, you've got 3mm.
Right.
That's 3.75.
Right.
And I'm actually using some needles that I haven't tried before. I bought these a while ago and I've never tried them. I'm using some higher bamboo needles, and it's just a fixed circular 80 centimetres. But they're great because these are the ones that spin in the cable end. And it's bamboo, so it is grippy, but I actually really like them. They're really nice and pointy, and I do really like wooden needles because I find that I don't have to kind of grip my work as hard, and that's ergonomically, I think that's better for me personally. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying it. It's just such a lovely knit, and I would really highly recommend it. I think it was like £2.40 the pattern or something, so no money at all, and just really worth it. And I just love the little picots. It's very clever how they're done. So thank you to my lovely friend who introduced me to this, because it's just a joy. And I think she said to me she's knit 8 of these this year. It's just like one of those things where it's kind of like socks a little bit, isn't it? You know, you might see a skein of yarn and think, oh yeah, that'd make a lovely stash buster. Dan Jones?
Yes.
What's on your needles?
This is a mystery worthy of Hercule Poirot.
Is it?
Yes. Not the new one, not the John Malkovich one.
Have you heard about that one?
The Kenneth Branagh one.
Don't approve of that.
Well, you know, wait and see, but I can't imagine it's going to be any good. It's the... Stree! Yes! I did it. I remembered. We remembered at the same time. Well done, you, for remembering. Now, the mystery... It is a mystery. Because 2 stitches seemed to disappear.
No, you'd not cast on enough. We established you'd cast on 2 less stitches. And luckily, the only reason you hadn't noticed it is because it's a 2-stitch repeat. So it still fit, otherwise you would have noticed it straight away.
How is that even possible?
Because you didn't count properly when you were casting on.
I need a stitch counter.
Oh, don't start with that again.
I mean, so, you know, I'm going to give these to Bryony and they'll be fine. Because the different, luckily my gauge on the top, on the leg, for all the reasons that we've spoken about recently, it was slightly looser. It has tightened up a little bit more down on the foot, but that's okay, because when I did the decreases, I made sure that I decreased to the right level, not the smaller level, so everything's fine. And I'm not too far off the end of this one, actually, which is great. But I can't work out how I could not cast on enough. Because with small stitch cast-ons, you know, like this, because it's just 48 stitches, isn't it?
No.
What is it?
It's 56, isn't it?
Okay.
And you'd cast on 54. See what? Now he's wondering how he cast on the wrong number. I don't even know how many you've got. It's 56.
But I've never done...
cast on 54.
I've never done that.
I think it's because you got confused with 64 that you've been casting on for the fingering weight.
Right. That'd be it.
Yeah.
Won't it? Because I cast this on close to casting on another fingering weight one as well. I
think that's what it'll be.
Yeah. But there it is. The colourway's lovely. It was the one from Kay that she did me for Christmas. Compared to the checked and squared, this is enjoyable. It really is enjoyable to knit. Checked and squared, first time through, thoroughly enjoyed. Second time through, found it quite boring because it was just a variation on rib. Because this isn't... I mean, yes, one round is knit one, purl one, which I suppose...
It's a broken rib.
Right, okay. Knit one, purl one, then knit one. It's just a broken rib design.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like a variation on ribbing. It feels like something more, to me. Right. You know, I can knit this and not get totally frustrated.
Because you've got a rest row in between each knit
Yeah,
row.
yeah, that'll be it.
Yeah.
That'll be it. You know, and the problem with it, I mean, if you love knitting rib, then the checked and squared you'll love. But, you know, I really, really don't. This one, I do enjoy. The finished sock is here, and I will. Do you know what? I'd like to knit one of these in fingering weight, and I will. You know, once I finish my other fingering weight socks, I'll cast on a pair of these in fingering weight. One thing I've got to say, actually, and you can follow my. I'll show them next time my fingering weight socks and where I'm at with those. But as I've mentioned, I'm doing a comparison between DPNs and Magic Loop, and I'm finding it really interesting, actually, in the comparison with how hard I feel like I'm having to work to knit the socks. At the moment, it feels like the Magic Loop is harder work, even though I'm not having to think quite so much about tension and all those types of things. It's just sort of happening underneath. It's probably because I'm not used to it, but I'm getting more and more used to it as I go. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens and see if my opinion changes. What I'm not enjoying at all is the yarn. I'm really not enjoying knitting with Opal.
Oh, right.
And I really am enjoying knitting with... Now, I have a feeling this has got nothing to do with Opal, and I think it's got everything to do with the thickness of the yarn.
Yeah.
The Nicole C. Mendez
It's lovely.
is absolutely lovely.
It is, yeah.
And I worry, you know, maybe it's just experience, but I worry with yarn. There's nothing to worry about, is it? You know, just accept what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And
absolutely.
I mean, if I was to always knit my fingering weight socks with slightly plumper fingering weight, there'd be no issues with that, would there?
No.
No. Because I just enjoy...
You know, so do I. I don't like knitting with the skinny... You can get some fingering weight yarns that are really skinny, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, you know, it really feels... I don't know if this is... I must get you to have a real close look at the... Actually, it's here, you know, so let's just have a quick look now.
Which one?
You're getting two for the price of one. That's not bad.
The Opal one.
This is... Now, I'm currently doing a tutorial series on this, so you can follow my progress. And as part of that tutorial series, I'm also discussing in great detail how I'm feeling about Magic Loop, comparing it to DPNs. I really feel like this is skinny. Then when I look at it, I don't feel like it is quite so much. But when I'm knitting with it, it just feels like there's not a lot of body to it.
There isn't a lot of body to it, but it's probably because... No, I think what it is, you're knitting these on 2.75 millimetres because you knit tightly.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, looking at your gauge there, it kind of looks like a gauge that you would get, you know, on a smaller needle to me.
Right.
So I don't think it... You know, and looking at it, it doesn't look particularly big, does it? But it feels thinner because it, you know, the fabric definitely feels thinner than like Nicole C. Mendez.
Yeah.
But it's this whole debate again. I was going to talk briefly about it with my next project, but this is the
Nicole C. Mendez one's here as well.
Oh right, gosh, it's like a sock fest. You know, this definitely feels thicker than this, and this you're knitting these on 2.75 as well. You can see it's a plumper yarn. You only need to look at it. Look.
Just everything about that just screams yes.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because Nicole is based in Germany.
Yes.
And Opal is German. And
Yes.
now, obviously, Nicole is a small producer compared to Opal.
Yeah.
So they will source their yarn base, presumably, you know, is on a much bigger scale. And Nicole's bases are different. But why is it Nicole can dye on this beautiful base, which is in Germany, and Opal... does it come down to cost? I just don't know.
It will do.
But, I mean, that base that Nicole uses is gorgeous.
Just everything about that.
It does feel thinner. You know, the whole fabric doesn't feel as dense.
It's sort of stringy.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like that.
And I find that a little bit sad.
But you see, that one, this is Opal that I'm knitting as well on 2.5 millimetre, and I'm probably getting about the same kind of fabric as you're getting.
Right. That then does bring me back to the DK, and...
This is not DK,
it's not DK.
This is Sport.
Sport, I'm sorry.
It's all too much for him. This is the problem, I think. I think I'm just giving you too many options.
It's not too many options.
And it gets confused in your head.
It does. I love this.
That's a sport weight, but it is a plump sport weight. This is the problem, isn't it? There's so many variations within each weight of yarn. Yeah. I think this is the issue. There's no general standard. You know, not everyone uses, obviously, the same bases. There's just so much variation. Because, for example, the difference between the most common base that indie dyers dye on is the 75-25, and that is 425 metres. I prefer using the bases that are 400 metres because I find that they're plumper, and even some of my bases I use are 365 metres, and that's actually my favourite.
Right.
So the difference between a 365 metre fingering weight and a 425 metre fingering weight is significant.
Yeah.
Some things are good for some projects and some are better for other things. You know, if you're knitting a shawl, then having a longer skein is better than the shorter skeins.
In summary, I think that if the fingering weight sock that I'm knitting on Magic Loop, I was knitting with yarn like this, I think I'd feel a whole lot more positive about it than what I'm currently doing.
Yeah.
And that feels wrong because it's Opal. I felt like it'd just be...
You don't have to like it.
No, of course you don't. I just expected to. But
you are using one of the newer ones, I think, aren't I don't know.
It's all getting confusing.
It is confusing. It's very confusing.
The bottom line is very simple, and that is, I think we need to put Opal to bed. We need to finish off assessing all the sock yarns which you've started. Pick a new one and run with it, baby.
Well, I'm not going to do that. That's just ridiculous because I have so much Opal and I love Opal, so I'm not going to do that.
I can do that, though.
Well, you can do that.
Yes.
Everybody's entitled to do whatever they want, aren't they?
They are indeed.
So...
And when you decide which your favourite is out of that yarn, then I'm going to knit with it.
Right.
And, you know, and I think actually I'd like to do that when I finish knitting with the Opal, which would be a little while, so don't worry.
Well, no worries.
Because it would be good then. If you go, yes, this one feels good, then it'll be good to knit with it and see how I feel about it. Anyway, so that is my street. It will be finished for next time, so you can look forward to seeing it in episode 100. What else is on your needles?
Well, the Opal conversation continues.
That looks much plumper than the one I'm knitting with.
Well, it's not.
Why does this look so much nicer than the one I'm knitting with?
Well, I can tell you now it's not, because I'm about to tell you why.
Okay, go for it.
So I'm knitting down a pair of socks, and I've finished the other pair, and I'll show you that in FOs. And I wanted to, because of all the debate, and conversation I've had around Opal and older bases and everything. You see, mine look, mine's thinner. Look at that compared to that. The thing I'm going to say.
No, yours is thicker.
Which one's mine?
Yours is the one on the top.
Oh right, no, mine is thicker. I'm finding it to be very inconsistent.
Right.
I'm knitting down another pair of socks, and this is a newer range from Opal, and it's the Talisman. I wanted to, after knitting the older base, I'm not going to say older base, the older range, I don't know if it's a different base. I've no idea. I don't have inside knowledge.
It's all gone wrong, hasn't it, Kay? Before, Opal, wonderful.
I know. I'm very unsettled by this whole Opal thing, let me tell you. I'm very unsettled.
Our world has been rocked.
But having just knit the pair I've just finished for him and loved them, flew off my needles, absolutely love them. I thought I'm going to cast on straight away a pair with a newer range so that I can make a direct comparison. And so this one is Opal Talisman, and the colourway is 9274 Freud. Is that the Freud that we think? I don't know. So it's this one that I'm knitting now for him. And I'm just started on the heel flap. And so this is where I am. I think it's lovely. It's super pretty, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I really love the colour of the heel flap I'm putting in. It's a Drops Fable, and it's number 104, and I think it's just purple. I wouldn't call that purple, but
I would.
Would you?
Yeah.
It's more aubergine to me, but there you go.
Well, yeah. No, you
it's
said that.
definitely in the purple range. But it kind of picks up this sort of purpley colour that's in here. And I think it looks really nice. The thing I'm finding with this particular ball of yarn is it's not consistent. So I'll be knitting away and thinking, oh, actually, this is really nice. But then I'll hit a really skinny patch. And that's happening a lot. And I think that's affecting the overall fabric that I'm feeling, because it just, I mean, if you feel the single layer of fabric there, it just doesn't feel as substantial as I would like it to feel, you know, as I'm used to it feeling. And it's the fact that it's inconsistent. I've always found Opal to be incredibly consistent, and that's one of the things that I love about it. This particular skein I'm finding isn't.
You've just finished knitting me a pair, and it's in What's Off Your Needles, actually,
Yes,
which is,
yes.
And that was an old.
Yes.
How old?
Oh, you can still buy it, but it's an older range. It's probably from, I don't know, a couple of 2-3 years ago, maybe.
Right. So that's been sat in your stash for 2-3 years.
No, I only bought it recently.
Right.
Because you can still buy that particular range. It hasn't discontinued yet.
So
but
surely
it's an
they would
older range. But you see, would they? That's the point. Would they still be producing that now, or is that just what was produced back then? These are all questions we don't know the answer to, and we will never know the answer to. But all I know is I'm not as happy knitting some Opal yarns as other Opal yarns that are the same base. You know, at first I just thought it's me, and I'm not going to mention this.
Yeah.
But then I thought, no, because it's an experience that I'm having and I wanted to share it.
Exactly.
And then there was a number of people, you know, there were a few people that said that they've not noticed any difference. And then there was a few people that said that they had noticed a difference. So who knows, really? I have no idea if there actually is.
There's got to be something in the fact of I'm sat there knitting with Opal and I don't like any aspect of it. And, you know, another pair of fingering weight, and I'm loving every aspect of it.
It's all down to the base of yarn, isn't it? This is a newer Opal, and yes, I really think this is really pretty, the way that it's working up. But this doesn't look anything like the way that previous socks have been dyed. I'll show you quickly the ones I've finished. I'll show you more in finished objects. But if you compare it to this, do you see what I mean? They don't look like this anymore, they look more like this. And that's the other thing I'm not keen on. I want this from Opal. I don't necessarily want this.
It looks more swirly and a bit sort of blotchy and...
Yeah, it's not got that
defined.
kind of Fair Isle-y look for me. It has a tiny bit, but not... It's more striping than that kind of Fair Isle-y look. You know, if you knit a lot of socks and you fancy just trying it, just go to your stash and get an older range and get a newer range and cast them both on so you can do a comparison and just judge for yourself what you think. Saying that, I'm enjoying it and I will finish the pair because I think they look lovely. A bit girly. I don't know if they're a bit girly, but Dan says not, so, and he'll wear.
Well, these are for me. They're not really.
But the Drops Fable I'm using for the heel is really plump and lovely. And, you know, that's cheap as chips, isn't it?
Something's clearly happened that's made you lose faith in Opal yarn.
Maybe that's just me. I am not saying it's Opal at all. It could just be me.
But you've adored it for years and then something's happened.
Yeah.
You know, so it'd be interesting to get to the bottom of what it is.
Yeah.
But there's surely, given the fact that whenever you've said to me, oh, try this, do this, it's really great.
Yeah.
It's always been the case. Yeah. You've passed me a skein of Opal yarn. It's not great. So...
There's a needle there. Where does that belong?
Thanks. Ah, that goes there. See, I just have to roll it in my fingers and I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a genius. I don't need... I've actually come to realise I don't need the... What do you call the things that you slide through?
The needle gauge.
Yeah, needle gauge. I can just do that and I can... Kate passes me her needles and I just do that and I go, yeah.
Right.
2.75s.
Right. Do you believe that? I want to slap him.
I'm a walking needle gauge.
I know where I'd like to put those needles.
Look, I've been using my... Oh, yes, very good. The only thing that's slightly frustrating about this, it's fine though, it's fine, but what you can't do is you can't It's a shame there's not one both sides.
Yeah, you can't click it back one. All you can do is click it to, you know, click, and then
reset.
zeroise it. But that's because it wasn't designed as a row counter.
It's fine, it's fun. You know, I like it. And, you know, to be honest now, Kay's released, as you well know, this year she's released the row counting beast. So the more of these I can get my hands on, the better.
And I got it from Wild and Woolly online, and they had all different colours. And I think it is like a people counter into events.
Yeah, I mean, we established that. I can't remember.
You can put your finger through it and sort of hide it in your hand and just count people as they walk by.
Stop.
Yeah.
No one would ever know.
We think that's what it's for.
Definitely. 3 days ago, I knew what a wrap. Well, I knew that the words wrap and turn existed.
Yeah.
I'd seen someone do it, but I had no idea why they did it, and I had no idea what they did. Wraps and turns are something which I think you have to experience before you have any clue as to the reason for their existence.
Right, yes, I would say that.
Yeah.
You might know what it was for.
So it was only when I sat down. Yes, all I have to do now is just do a bit of putting on hold and binding off, and one side is done.
The back, that's the back, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes, which is good. I'm pleased that it's the back.
There's more fabric in the back, isn't there?
There is more fabric in the back. But look, it's done. Oh,
Amazing.
it really is amazing. You know, and I love how it smells. Oh, I love how it smells.
Sheep is...
Sheepy.
It's a bit sheepy.
I like sheep. Don't you like sheep?
Yes.
They're nice. Something went wrong with our wraps and turns. Now, I don't know what it was, because there was a wrap to pick up on every stitch. You know, on that side where it was like, what's gone on?
Right.
So, you know, on both sides...
What, you had 4 to pick up?
No.
No.
There was 3 on both sides.
Yeah, well, that's because we stopped at 3 when we realised.
But if you remember, one side looked weird.
Oh, yeah.
And we were trying to work out what was going on.
It was really gappy.
There was a wrap there, which I picked up,
right,
and away we go. So wraps and turns done both sides. Now it is, as I've said, just a case of putting 12 stitches either side on hold and binding off the middle bit for the collar.
That's for like a 3 needle bind off up here, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and then you've got to put your collar stitches on hold at the back.
They're bound off.
Oh, you bind them off?
Yeah.
Oh, right, you must bind them off and then pick them back up again.
Yes.
Some people put them on hold. Why are you binding them off? Why are you not just putting them on hold?
Well, let's put them on hold then.
Well, you better follow the pattern, because it would give you more structure. I think if you bind off and then pick up, it gives you more structure, doesn't it?
Right.
Rather than just using the same stitches. So that'll be why, I would have thought. We had trouble with one of the directions of the short rows, actually, but we worked it out.
Yes, because I have tried to get help before and it's not forthcoming.
Failed, yeah, so we just kind of worked it out.
Yes. So, back, nearly done.
It's long, actually. I mean, I did try it on, didn't I?
Yeah.
I did try it on, and it was a bit snug, but I'm hoping that will block out, and then it'll be lovely.
It's a lovely thing to look down.
It's very nice, yeah.
I really sort of enjoy that texture.
Sometimes it makes my eyes go funny looking at the crisscrossers, do you know what I mean?
Can you see things?
Yeah, I don't know, it just sometimes I think,
see?
is that bit right? You know, I don't
it is.
know why, you know, it's all right.
I've made
I know,
no mistakes on that.
But I think it just makes your eyes sort of, confuses your eyes. It's all the up and, because it weaves, doesn't it?
So that is the lovely Samantha. I'm going to get that obviously bound off and get the front picked up, and then it's time to knit the front. Loving everything about knitting garments. It is definitely my thing.
I think, to be honest, wraps and turns are not, I'm not saying they're not the best way of doing a short row, but they have their, if you don't do it quite right, they do have their little niggles, don't they?
So would a German be...
A German short row?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people would have replaced it with a German short row, but I've never had any experience of working a German short row instead of something else. Right. Do you know what I mean? When it's a garment, I just tend to follow the patterns. I'm not...
Because then you know you're safe, don't you?
Yeah.
What else is on your needles?
Well, the last thing I've got today is another new cast on, as I said, and I've been wanting to do this for ages, and I need to get this blanket behind me. My crochet blanket that I made, I don't know, 3 years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago. I don't know when I made it. It sits in the living room and I look at it every single day, and I kind of, some days I like to look at one side, some days I like to look at the other, but more often than not it's this section that I see. This is my crochet blanket. I'll show you. This is the one that I crocheted from fingering weight scraps. I just did granny squares and then joined it with cream. You might remember I knit this, if I say knit, I mean crochet. So this is the blanket, and I love it, you know, and I use it all the time. It's just a perfect lap size, and I really love it. And I would love to make another one, but I just can't crochet right now, which is really frustrating because I would love to make another one. And I stare at these two squares, and I deliberately put these together. I remember when I crocheted it because I just thought they look lovely together. And it's these two here, this pinky variegated and this kind of lilac-y, it's not even lilac, it's like a bright sort of lilac-y, purpley, pinky. And it's these two, and I look at them all the time. And I know what yarns they are. All the time I've been looking at it, I'm thinking, oh, I'd love to knit a pair of socks in those yarns. Didn't have any of it left. I just presumed I wouldn't be able to get it again because it's a few years ago that I knit this. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a look around. And I actually found some. I had to use 2 different shops because they didn't have the colour that I wanted in one of them. But that was okay. And it's the Regia, My First Regia yarn. And I think it's been renamed now as Regia Baby Smiles, My First Regia. I mean, why they've added in something else, I don't know. But this is what it's called now. Regia Baby Smiles, My First Regia. The variegated is 01816. They do have names, but I can't remember what they are. I think this one, I think the purple is Sophie. I think that's Sophie. I remember because my friend's got a daughter called Sophie and it reminds me of that. The purple is 01886. So 01886, 01816. That's confusing, isn't it? It's the same kind of numbers. How funny is that? It's the same digits, but in different orders. So I found them. So I ordered, I think I got 4. These are 25 gram balls. They're just little balls. It's 75-25, you know, perfectly standard sort of sock weight. And I ordered 4 balls of the purple. So that's 100 grams. And then 2 of the variegated. Because what I wanted to do was have the majority of the sock in the purple because I love this shade of purple. It's gorgeous. I love it. And then have the contrast as this because I thought that might be fun. And I thought I'd only really need 1 of these, but I thought I'd get 2 just in case. So that's the yarn. So I cast on a sock. Oh, and I love it. Look how pretty it is. Oh, so it's my kind of blanket sock. I'm calling it my blanket socks. And I did a longer cuff. I normally just do 15 rounds when it's a sock for me or Bryony. But I follow Amy on Instagram. She's Exterminate. I'm sure a lot of you follow her. She knits the most beautiful socks and she always does a longer cuff. So I thought, oh, and I just love the way it looks when you're knitting it. I just think it looks really pretty as you're knitting it. So I thought I'm going to do that. So I knit 20 rows on this, 20 rounds. But I think Amy's are even longer than that. But I thought, no, I'll go with 20 this time and see how I feel. And I love how the variegated looks. It's just really pretty. And then I've gone into the purple. And I wanted to do plain but not plain. So I'm doing a 6x2 broken rib. So I'm doing 1 round knit 6 purl 2, 1 round plain knit. And that fits on a 64 stitch sock. It fits perfectly on this sock and I just love how it looks. Kind of reminds me of a sports sock for some reason.
Yeah, football.
Does it? Does it you? With that maybe longer cuff and then the...
You'd have to go really long, it'd be knee high.
Oh no, I'm not doing knee high.
No, I know.
I'm just doing 64 stitches, 2.25 on the ChowGoo mini twists, which are still my absolute favourites for sock knitting. I did actually cast on, I can't remember which, I cast on something recently. It might have been that Opal sock of Dan's actually. I thought, oh, I'll knit that one on DPNs just for a change. And I cast it on and I knit a few rounds on deep ends and I wasn't enjoying it. So that was good to know, so I just switched it over. So that was, because I was thinking, oh, maybe I should go back to DPNs, because I used to always knit my socks on DPNs. I had quite a long phase where I always knit them. And the lovely stitch marker is from Jules. It's So Sweet Violet. It's so cute, isn't it? And it's full of fairy wishes or something like that. And it's really cute. And it's not very heavy. I like the ones that aren't too heavy, that pull your stitches down, and that's not very heavy. So I'm really enjoying it, and it's so nice because, you know, I'm looking at the blanket and now I'm knitting a pair of socks. So it's just really, I just really like, I suppose, and Amy actually said when she saw them, it's like a reverse Cozy Memories. That's what I'm doing, because normally you knit it from scraps of socks, and I've done it kind of the other way around. But, you know, why not? So I'll use this for the heels and the toes as well. And I think it'll just be a really pretty, hard-wearing pair of socks.
Yeah.
And I've got it in a lovely new bag. Oh, I love this bag. I got this from Leslie at Duckpool Lane. She posted photos of these the other day. And I just
She's featured
Oh, yes,
in issue 12
She is.
of Knitability.
Duckpool Lane. They're
Out
just,
in July.
This is my perfect size of bag. I love this size. It's perfect for socks, perfect for a small shawl, hat. You know, it's just really lovely. And I love the green with this Paris sort of fabric. It kind of matches my sock. You know, there's lots of colours of this are in this. So really lovely.
It is. It's very nice. Many, many, many episodes ago, we took you to Jervo Abbey, which is our favourite place to knit. And last year, we began a quest to find new favourite places to knit. And of course, that was called Our New Adventures. In season 1, many places scored quite highly.
It did.
In season 2, it started very well. Lowther Castle has scored well. York scored well. Saltburn didn't score quite so well.
No, it didn't.
We established that we're not beach knitters. And the question on my lips today, partway through the second season of New Adventures, is: have we finally found something to knock Jervo Abbey off the top of the tree? This is Northumberland, and 2,000 years ago, the Romans chose this part of the world to mark the end of their empire. And that left this landscape littered with breathtaking monuments from the time of Agricola and Hadrian.
And there lies the problem. Because when fascinating places are so close by, you tend to ignore beautiful places like this.
This is Aydon Castle, and in the 14th century it found itself in the middle of two countries' battle for supremacy. Welcome to the age of Robert the Bruce, William Wallace and the Scottish Wars of Independence.
These are the new adventures of the Bakery Bears. Our story starts 2,000 years ago. At that time, the country of Scotland didn't exist, but one man is about to create it.
And here he is. This is Publius Aulius Hadrianus. We know him better as the Roman Emperor Hadrian. Now, the Romans had spent nearly 150 years trying to conquer the whole of England.
When Hadrian became emperor, he decided the heavily wooded and mountainous regions that lay to the far north of our island would never be conquered. So he built a wall across the whole of the country, and in one stroke he created two. Now the Roman province of Britannia had a northern border, and the country of Scotland was born.
Now, Hadrian's famous wall lies just over that ridge, and I wonder if the Romans knew when they drew their line in the sand that they'd effectively created a war zone that would last for the next 1700 years.
Initially, it was local lords fighting over the edges of their county boundaries, because of course more land brought more power through more people paying you taxation. But around the time of the Norman conquest, which we covered in the first episode of this series, this part of the world had reached an uneasy peace. Into this landscape stepped the recently widowed Emma de Umfraville, who decided,
It has been really dangerous around here for a very long time, but it's been lovely and quiet for quite a while now, so I think we should build ourselves a lovely little home just over here.
welcome to Aydon Hall. This is the medieval manor Emma built herself around 1206. At that time, this would have been the extent of her buildings. There was no need for battlements, just one big hall for the ultimate in 13th century open plan living. In medieval England, this was the type of house you and I would have aspired to live in.
Because you really do have everything you need. Now, originally, there would most probably have been a fireplace around here, right in the middle, keeping everybody warm. The lord and lady would have sat up here at the table, and then surrounding them, there would have been their servants, any tenants that they had, anyone else that was part of the household. But as the lord and lady, with your lovely thrones to sit on, even in a small place like this, you had something that was very rare in medieval times, and that was privacy, because you had a lovely place to retire to, and that's just through here.
This was the family's private area, situated at one end of the hall. This would have incorporated a small living space and, of course, their sleeping accommodation. Communal living was how most people lived. Privacy was very much reserved for the few, so this area, the solar, really is what separated the lord and lady of the manor from their tenants and servants. The Roman language influenced so many of our words, and solar is no different. It derives from the Roman word solus, which means alone.
So as we leave the lord and lady's private rooms, we head down here. Now, this was the place where the real work went on, because this is where all the servants, all the people who ran the estate worked. So this is it, and you'll see straight away the difference. Much lower ceiling, 2 floors of work going on, and you can sort of make out the workings of the kitchen. Big fireplace right here, which would have had things most probably cooking over the top of the fire, pots and pans, and maybe even pigs or whatever, spit roasting on the top. But then over here, we've got a sink, and it's superb. Yes, no running water, but you could wash up, do everything you need to, bucket straight on the top, and then down the pipe at the back, straight on the outside wall of the castle and out. Brilliant. And then through here, this is where anything that needed to be kept cold was kept.
So you can really make out the workings of kitchens that we recognise and use even to this day. And what I love the most about this place is it's one of the finest unaltered examples of a 13th century manor house in the whole of Great Britain. Now we can say that about in here, but the same can't be said for out here. Because trouble was brewing. Aydon had been built as a manor house, not a castle. So what precisely is all this doing here? Within a few short years of Aydon Hall's existence, the peace its surrounding area had come to appreciate was shattered. The King of Scotland fell from his horse and died. Scotland had a serious problem because there was no son and heir. Whilst the country was about to disappear into civil war, the Scottish lords made the fatal mistake of inviting the English king, Edward I, into their country to help decide who should be their new monarch. But Edward had no intention of appointing anyone, because just like the Romans before him, he wanted to rule Scotland as well as England, and the Scots, quite rightly, were not about to accept that. The Scottish Wars of Independence had begun, and Aydon Hall found itself in the middle of the action. Now, it obviously had to become a castle, because roaming the countryside, surrounding all of this part of the world, were huge armies, headed up by some of the most famous names in Scottish history. Like this man. Many of you may not recognise him, but I bet most of you know exactly who he is. This is William Wallace, made famous by the 1995 movie Braveheart. He was in fact a Scottish noble who, just like in the film, began his rise to fame when he assassinated the English sheriff of Lanark. Hollywood painted Wallace's actions as revenge for the murder of his wife, but this isn't true because his wife actually helped him escape after he'd murdered the sheriff. William Wallace's act was part of a coordinated attack on the invading English army, and it wasn't long before he found himself at the head of a huge army. After Wallace led the army that defeated the English in 1297, he harried south to take control of as many castles as he possibly could, and he arrived here at Aydon Castle. Now, its owner, Robert de Rheims, somehow managed to hold out. I can't imagine what it must have been like. The Scottish army was up there, huge Scottish army, with William Wallace at the head of it, and he wants to come and take your castle. How would you even begin to stop them coming and taking over? But he did. I would guess that what Robert needed to do when that army was sat right up there trying to get into his gates was have a little knit, and I think that's what we should do, and I know just the perfect place to do it. My goodness. We seem to have stumbled across about the nicest knitting spot in the world.
I think we have.
I'm not kidding.
We should just pause so you can listen.
Birdies.
How beautiful
Aren't
is
they
that?
lovely? We're sat in an orchard.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is an old orchard.
It's an old orchard.
This has been around a long time.
Yeah, you can tell it's old.
Because this becomes in time, and we'll discover all this as we get further through our exploration of this wonderful place, it became a farm, and it was a farm for a long, long time. And you just get that feel. It's great. It is just perfect. I think because of those trees, there's a tree line just over there. We're surrounded by a wall. It's like a walled garden. I think even if there was wind, we'd be calmed.
Yeah.
What I have enjoyed finding out about when that bird stops tweeting.
Oh, it's lovely though, isn't it?
Yes, I'm not complaining. We love birds. Apart from when you're trying to dry yarn.
Do you know what happened the other day, right? I had loads of yarn outside. It was a brilliant drying day. There was a breeze. It wasn't too hot. So I'd got a line full of yarn drying, and it was fantastic. And I'd just filled up we've got a bird table,
little bath,
and some water for the birds and everything. And I'd filled it with these. They're like little pellets, but they've got bugs inside them. Sounds disgusting, and it's suet as well. And the birds go nuts for them. But that particular day, I think all of the baby starlings must have flown their nests, because it was like a scene from an Alfred Hitchcock film. I've never seen so many birds. But one of them actually landed on my yarn.
No.
Well,
Oh my goodness.
you can imagine, I was not impressed. Plus, they were like these really, you know, the poor little tiny birds, the blue tits and the little sparrows and everything, they were like bullied by these huge baby starlings. So I moved the bird stand, didn't I? It has to dry. I can't have this while my yarn's drying, so I moved it to a different bit of the garden.
Not acceptable.
No, and then they all kind of came back and sat on the fence and looked as if to say, where on earth has all that food gone? But by which time, actually, they'd nearly scoffed the lot, hadn't they?
Yeah. You know the word butler?
Butler, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you know where it comes from?
No.
It comes from a medieval household. So there would have been a butler here, and his job was to look after the products that are kept in the buttery.
Ah, right.
There was another person whose the job title was pantler.
Did he look after the pants?
He looked after everything in the pantry.
Pantry.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, it just...
How funny
it
that
all
we've
starts
kept
to make-
butler but
Well,
not pantler. That's really hard to say.
What must have happened over time is obviously households got smaller.
Yeah.
So they just kept one job title rather
Right.
than, you know, lots of different job titles going on.
Right.
It's so interesting, isn't it? You know, I've always known of butteries
Yeah.
in old, you know, castles and medieval houses and things, and obviously pantries, but never realised. I'd just never put together, well, of course, the butler
No.
looks after the buttery. And the other thing that really blows my mind is I'd never stopped to consider that Scotland was formed by Emperor Hadrian when he built Hadrian's Wall. I mean, you never think, do you? You just think Scotland's always been there. The landmass has always been there,
Oh, yeah,
but the
of course.
country wasn't.
Right.
And do you know where Scotland gets its name from?
Land of the Scots?
No. Well,
I
what do you
don't know.
mean, land of the Scots? Where does the word Scot
I have no
come
idea.
from? I shall tell you. There was a tribe of Celts
Yeah.
called the Scotti.
Right.
They were from Ireland.
Oh,
They moved
well, that
to,
makes sense.
They moved to Ayrshire,
Right.
and they obviously, that became their home.
Yeah.
And they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And because they were like the main tribe, the main Celtic tribe that was living in Scotland, Scotland became known as the land of the Scotti,
Right.
Scotland. Because, of course, when Hadrian built the wall, it wasn't called Scotland then, it was called Caledonia. You had Britannia on one side and Caledonia on the
They're
other.
much nicer words, aren't they, than England and Scotland?
Yeah.
We should go back to that, shouldn't we?
Yes, we
Where do you
definitely
live?
should.
I live in Britannia. Oh, it sounds lovely.
Because back then, it wasn't known as... Because where does the word England come from? No.
The Angles
Yes.
lived there. It's
So
like
it was Angleland.
Angleland.
Yes.
That sounds like something off Postman Pat.
Yeah, no, yeah. But that's what it was, Angleland. But the Angles didn't arrive until after the Romans.
Oh.
So we were Britain before we were England.
Right.
And Scotland, of course, was... But Scotland still do, in lots of circumstances, still do use the word Caledonia.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Caledonian.
Thistle, football team.
Yeah, and there's a canal as well, I think. Isn't there the Caledonian Canal, I
Yes.
think?
Yeah, absolutely. And Braveheart, I loved that movie when it came out.
Yes. I mean,
Did you?
I don't know that I've actually ever seen Braveheart.
You're joking.
No, I don't think I am joking.
You're joking.
I think I am joking.
You are.
I've got no actual memory of watching Braveheart.
It's a great film, apart from the very end.
What happens at the end?
Well, it's what happens to him at the very end. And,
Does he die?
It's true to life.
I don't like films where that
Well,
happens.
I just used to turn it off.
Somehow I managed to twist my cable. Have I managed to do that?
Oh, well, I do that all the time. So don't
Let's
worry about it.
untwist it.
Neil, look, I waffled on so much about pantlers and butlers.
Pantlers.
We need to be giving this place a knitability score.
Well, it's got to be a 10, hasn't it?
There's no arguments.
It's got to be a 10.
And I would have argued for a 10
I can't fault it,
had
really.
you said anything less than a 10.
I really can't fault it because in this little bit we're in here, there's only 2 picnic tables, but
So
there are
even
some
if there
more.
was someone else?
But even if they were full when you came in here, there's loads of places you could just throw a blanket down.
There's picnic tables out there.
There is some picnic tables just in another bit as well of the castle.
What
But
they've done
there's-
is they've used the space well.
Yeah, but there's loads of places where little corners where you could just throw down a blanket if you wanted, just to have a little half-hour knit.
Absolutely. So, no arguments whatsoever. 10 out of 10.
Yep.
But hold on a minute. We've got this beautiful castle to explore. And we need to find out who did capture Aydon Castle in 1315.
So make sure you come back later for part 2.
We'll see you then.
Oh my goodness. We have stumbled upon possibly the most picturesque, perfect place ever.
So nice.
And
So nice.
The question now on your lips is, how is it going to score? Well, you're going to have to wait until part 2 to find out.
Oh, it was lovely. It was
difficult to
just
fault.
so no, I couldn't fault it at all. It's a small, sort of out of the way place. The car park's tiny, only takes like 20 cars or something. But that wasn't an issue. I think there was like 3-4 cars.
And I was surprised at that.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised at that because it is very off the beaten track. But it was just so lovely, and it was so quiet and peaceful, and it's very rare these days that you go somewhere and you can't hear traffic, even if it's off in the sort of distance.
And it's funny because it's not that far from...
It's not that far from, no, it's like 1.5 miles off a road, which isn't a main road, but it's still quite a busy road.
Yeah. And there was a signpost, wasn't there? 2 miles to Corbridge.
Yeah. But it just felt like you were much further away.
You can see why they picked it.
Yeah, it was just lovely, and all you could really hear was birds tweeting.
There was lots.
And there were lots of birds.
As you heard.
Yeah, and it was just really a really beautiful place to walk around.
How's it going to score?
Yeah.
We'll find out in part 2. It's time for us to find out. Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
I do have some things off, and one of them you've not even seen on,
My goodness.
which is exciting.
Yes.
I will start with the thing that you've probably seen most recently.
Yes.
And yes, I finished my arrow cowl. Yay! You'll be glad to know. I finished it quite soon after the last podcast, actually. Just thought, I'm just going to get this done, because it wasn't far off finishing. So it's finished, and it's washed and blocked, and it's lovely. I love it. It's super nice. Shall I put it on and then you can see what it's like on? It blocked out really nicely, actually. And it didn't... I was worried that the purple might bleed a bit. And there was a little bit of purple in the water, but nothing that, would bother anything. It's just really nice, look. It's just a nice little neck warmer. Perfect. Love it. So that's the arrow cowl.
Cool.
And it weighed just short of 100 grams. So I used just short of 100 grams. So I've got quite a lot of the yarn left. So I used Malabrigo sock in Abril, Abril, and I've got about 50 grams of that left. And then the Whimsy yarn was a heavy skein. It was 115 grams. So I've got a bit more of that left. And that was the Prairie Dusk colour. So I've got plenty left to do something else with, which is great. And yet this still weighs 100 grams, so it's a nice size. It's lovely, I really enjoyed it. Arrow Cowl by Lisa Haynes, all done and dusted.
Nice colour choices, I think.
Yeah, I really like the colours. I think they go really nicely together, and it's not a stark white against dark. No. So the next thing I finished is Dan socks that you had a little quick flash of before. But I have finished these, all washed and blocked. That just looks like one sock. I'll show you so there's 2. And I love these. You really like these, don't you? But obviously he's not been allowed to wear them yet. And Dan's socks are normally a bit of a slog, I'll be honest, because they're so long, in the foot. But these seem to just fly. And it's got to be down to the yarn, hasn't it? I love how it works up. And these weigh about 95 grams, but I obviously put in a contrast heel. So I've got about 12 grams left, I think, something like that. And this was the Opal Hundertwasser, and the colourway number was 2104, which I believe means Winter Sprite. It says Winter Geist. I think in English that would be Winter Sprite. There's the yarn. And you can still get this if you just Google it. You can still get it.
That's annoying.
I know! You had that green bit and it happened on both of them. The green, it's just a single stripe, and obviously I've used 72 stitches. And look, the green didn't quite go all the way around because it's just one single stripe. I think it happened. Yeah,
Not so bad on that one.
It happened there again, look.
That was just on the end. That one's gone all the way around.
Oh, right, that's funny,
But that
isn't
one didn't.
it? That one's gone all the... Yeah, I mean, on my gauge, they're exactly the same, size-wise.
Now, I thought just occurred to me with regards to your opinions on Opal. I wonder if there might be a connection between your disengagement with Opal with their change in how they've been dyeing their yarns.
It could well be that, you know, that's my main issue with it, I think.
The thing is though, right?
Why don't they dye yarns that are like this anymore?
That feels way different.
I know, it does feel thicker, doesn't it? I think it feels thicker as well.
That feels so different.
Driving myself bonkers, everyone. With
Is this the same?
Yeah.
This is fingering weight.
It's exactly the same, apparently, exactly the same base. And I did my umbrella toe again on this, which is lovely. Yours might be a slightly looser gauge, but actually, I think I get about 8 stitches to the inch on 2.5, which is probably about what you've got, I think.
That is springy.
It is springy. I think that's what the difference
flat and dead. This feels like string. This feels like yarn.
These have been washed as well.
That is lovely.
It's bouncy, isn't it? I think that's what the difference is. It feels a bit kind of bouncier and a bit airier. Maybe it's the way that it's been spun, the base, you know.
The stitches look
bigger. I think my stitch gauge might be a bit bigger than yours even. So in which case that even makes less sense, doesn't it?
There's way more stitches to an inch there than there is to there.
This is washed and blocked and that's all scrunched up, but I would agree that... I know I've measured my gauge on this because I was curious, and I get 8 stitches to the inch.
And I know that these are coming out tight because I've said to you a few times that knitting on Magic Loop, it seems to be tightening up when it's going onto the loop.
But, you know, they wear perfectly well for Dan, and... You know, we've never had a problem, have we, with...
That is chalk and cheese.
I know, well,
just feeling the fabric. There's just no comparison.
Oh, it's so stressful, you know, it's so stressful. I found it so stressful. But this particular colourway, I think, is fabulous. And again, anybody from Opal, if you happen to be watching, could you please dye colours like you used to?
Well, people might love the new colours, mightn't they?
I don't dislike them, and if I'd never had this, I'd be perfectly happy with them. But we know that they can do stuff like this.
Your problem, I think, started with the Advent calendar, where everything was all grungy and
I've had issues with the colours in the Advent calendar, I must admit. Yeah.
You were expecting all sort of vibrant, lovely, exciting ones.
I was expecting, you know, pretty festive colours, and they kind of weren't like that. Anyway, they are finished and you can have them, and I do have a little bit of leftovers, which is nice.
Great.
So, Bryony has recently discovered that she loves Jurassic Park, the original film. And she's watched all 3 of them now, actually, hasn't she?
Yeah.
She's been watching them the last few weeks. But she particularly loves the first one. And we've watched Jurassic World loads of times, and she loves that.
Yeah.
And I've been saying to her for ages, you should go back and watch Jurassic Park. She'd always got it in her head that it was more scary. You know, and it's not, we all know that. But trying to convince her, she had to decide for herself. She made the decision that she wanted to watch it, and of course she loved it, and she's watched it about 4 times since. She wanted to read the book, so she used her pocket money, bought the book, and she's bought a pot figure. And she's reading the book and really enjoying it. And then I saw a new pattern come out a few days ago by lovely Susan B. Anderson, and it was a dinosaur. And I thought, no, I can't spend the time making that. It's silly, isn't it? And well, of course I did. I resisted for a few days, and then I thought, it's futile. I've just got to make it. So I did. So I made it. Oh, hello. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. Look at the cute little smile. Oh, she's a happy dinosaur. It's so sweet. And these, you embroider these on. I really enjoyed doing these. It's like it's called a spider web, I think, the embroidery sort of technique. And all of the little appendages, not the tail, but these and the 4 feet are knit on afterwards. So you pick up stitches and knit them. So there's no seaming really. Is there any seaming? Your Kitchener stitch things, but I don't remember any actual seaming at all. So I mean, if you don't like seaming, then it's brilliant. And it's the pattern's designed for a worsted weight. I used DK, so it's come out just slightly smaller. Because I wanted to use this yarn, it does have a tendency to do that. I think it's a little bit sort of top heavy. So you just have to kind of manoeuvre it to make him stand up. I used a yarn from lovely Erica. Erica, I used your yarn. And it's a DK weight that she sent me last year sometime maybe. 100% superwash merino. And the colourway is Puck Wudgie, which I understand is some kind of little goblin creature in Harry Potter. That sort of ties in as well with Summer of Sorcery. So I thought that was great. And this is the colour, it's lovely. It's like a variegated browns and greens and sort of like a sky bluish. Really pretty, and I thought looked kind of dinosaur-y. And then I pinched a bit of Dan's Drops Charisma in the mustard colour.
Unacceptable.
But it's only a weeny bit, isn't it? And it's super cute. And it took me, I thought I will not time myself, but just roughly work out how long it took me to make. And it's probably about 6 hours-ish, something like that, for the whole thing, which I think is great. You know, you can knit it in a weekend easily, as you know, if you need to make one for a gift. The thing that slowed me down, and actually I speeded up when I realised that it was slowing me down, these little things that you pick up stitches for, the pattern is written for DPNs, and I did knit the whole thing on DPNs, apart from when I realised that these are incredibly fiddly to knit on DPNs, because the instruction tells you to pick up the stitches and then knit in the round on 2 DPNs, which is doable.
But hard.
But I found, especially when you've got the whole of that you can imagine, you picked up stitches, you've got the whole of the thing attached to the needles. I just found it really fiddly. And I did that for the first 2 of these. No, I did it for all of these actually. All of these I did on DPNs, and I did one of the legs on DPNs, and then I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go and get a circular needle, and I knit the other 3 legs magic loop, and it took me the same amount of time to knit the 3 legs as it did to knit the 1.
Wow.
Just because I found it so much less fiddly magic loop than trying to knit in the round on 2 DPNs. It just wasn't for me. So I would say if you find that fiddly as well, just grab a circular needle and do these magic loop, because it speeded up the whole process and made it much less of a bit of a fiddle.
I'm so glad you said that, because I knew when I started the whole magic loop thing that there was times when it's such an important technique, and there it is.
For me personally, it definitely helped enormously. And this pattern's called Little Dino from Susan B. Anderson. She's only just brought it out, so you'll be able to find it easily on Ravelry, and she posted on Instagram as well. It's so cute, isn't it? And it was just the perfect size, to stand next to a pop figure, and it's bigger than the pop figure like a dinosaur would be, but just that cute little size that's just perfect. It's so sweet, and I loved using Erica's yarn. It was lovely.
It's sort of large velociraptor size.
No, I mean, what kind of dinosaur is that? I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say it's a velociraptor.
It's not a velociraptor.
Well,
they've got little legs here. They've got little legs. It's like they're like a T-Rex. It's more like
This is a whimsical.
It's more like a diplodocus, is it?
Well, you've got the sizing all wrong then.
Isn't a diplodocus the one with the long neck?
That's huge. So a man would be about that size.
Well, we'll put it next to a Lego person then, and then that would be about right.
Yeah, maybe, for a baby.
Yeah, but it's not meant to be to scale, I don't think, is it really?
If you're going to do it, Kate.
Oh, I know. So it was lovely, and I really enjoyed it. So Susan, if you happen to be watching, I really enjoyed it. It was super cute. And it's got a little garter stitch sort of bottom. I think that's really cute. I like having the different textures. And there is an option in the pattern to do stripes as well. Obviously I was using a variegated, so I didn't do that. I just did it all in one colour, but there is an option for that.
Cool.
And Bryony called him Lex, I think, or she, Lexi, after the little girl in Jurassic Park.
Cool.
Arr. Very cute. Did you like my dinosaur impression?
It was great.
So there we go.
Wonderful. I want to go back to Aydon Castle and find out how it's going to score. Is it going to come high? Is it going to beat Chervo? Let's go and find out.
Welcome back to Aydon Castle. In 1315, the King of Scotland stood right here, ready to take control, finally, of this beautiful place. Whilst Aydon had been built as a family home, these 14th century outer walls show us that it was forced to become a fully fledged castle. The story unfolding in the surrounding countryside was brutal and fast moving. In 1297, William Wallace burst onto the scene, about 90 miles in that direction, at the Battle of Stirling Bridge. Now, he then began harrying south, coming here to Aydon Castle. He also was over there trying to take control of Hexham, also Corbridge as well, which is down that way. But as fast as his career begins, in just a year, it's over. He's defeated by the English, and Scotland needed a new champion. And my goodness, did they get a good one. With William Wallace and the Scottish army freshly defeated at Falkirk, the survival of their country truly was in the balance. It's difficult to imagine the instability of Scotland at that time, with no one really in charge and the might of the English army bearing down on them. Life at Aydon, I suspect, felt pretty good. They had survived an attack by Braveheart, and now it probably felt like the worst of the trouble was over. But they didn't account for this man. Robert the Bruce was appointed Guardian of Scotland, and his people thronged to him. He must have been quite the character, because suddenly the quarrelling over who should be king stopped. Scotland had found their new king. On the 23rd of June 1314, Robert the Bruce took the field against the English at Bannockburn, and he won. It was about 90 miles actually in that direction. As soon as he'd won, he followed in the footsteps of William Wallace, started harrying south, and he found himself at the gates of Aydon Castle. But what precisely had they come to conquer? Shall you and I take a little walking tour of the complete site? Yes, let's go. Now, originally, there would have been wooden lodgings up against the majority of the outer wall. This would have accommodated servants and, in times of crisis, which were common, an enlarged garrison of soldiers. But that there is an additional courtyard. Now, it was designed to be defensive, providing a further layer of wall for an invading army to get over, but it was also intended to impress by creating a series of entrances. Now, we've just glanced over there at the stable blocks, and whilst the buildings that we see weren't actually constructed until the 1800s, here they are, this is the stables. These were replacing the originals built when the house was built. Horses were, of course, essential for transport, so this, in essence, it's like a medieval garage. And look, you could see there on the left the troughs they used to drink from. You can also see there in the floor where the wooden posts used to go to create the individual stalls for each of the horses. And also, it's sloping, so of course it would be easier to clean out with that central drain as well. You could throw down water, get a brush, give it a clean out, job done. Now, as we make our way back out across the outer courtyard, we can see the only tower just there on that left-hand side that was built into the defensive wall. And to its right, you can see the entrance to what looks like a dungeon. The tower there, that would have obviously housed the soldiers, and it was the only place of high ground, so it would have been used many times to defend against the invading Scottish armies. And then in future, actually, as we're going to find out in a moment, when the Scots did take it over, it was the English who were being defended against. This is the inside of that tower. It would have been quite tall. There would have been a stairway in it, and you would have been able to get up onto the main part of the wall. So we make our way back out again, though. You're going to see just there that little building, and it does look just like a dungeon, but unfortunately, it's nowhere near as glamorous. It was just a storeroom, but the storeroom was converted in the 1800s into a little blacksmith shop, and this is where he used to work. He'd obviously been making shoes for the horses and, you know, any other metalworking that would have been needed for the castle and its surrounding estate. Aydon is, though, without doubt, unlike any castle we've ever visited. And that's because it was never intended to be a castle. This really is just a family home, and you can see that family home right there. That's where Emma used to live. It just ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. So picture the scene in 1315 with the Scottish army at the gates, and you've got no moat, no drawbridge, and no real defences. So it's no wonder then that, faced with the full might of the Scottish army, that the governor of Aydon decided to just surrender. And for the first time in its history, it changed hands. I think it was amazing, actually, that it was the first time that it had changed hands, because Aydon is a tiny place. It had successfully defended itself against William Wallace, and the first time it did change hands, they chose to surrender. And for the next 2 years, this was a base for Scottish troops. Weapons, men and horses would have been garrisoned right here. The family home would have become, for just a short time, a small military base, because in 1317 the English took it back, and its owner, Robert de Rheims, moved back to his family home. All this talk of armies and fighting is making me hungry, so I think it's time that we found out what Aydon Castle has to offer in terms of picnic spots, and I think I've spotted rather a good one, and it's just down there. Oh, look at that. Is everything okay? Yeah? We're back in our favourite spot. It is just been wonderful to sit here having our lovely sushi. Yes, we've had our first course, and now moving on to our second course.
We had some sushi.
I have ginger cake.
You got ginger cake.
And there is things in there that you could buy. You would need to bring a picnic.
Yeah.
Definitely need to bring a picnic.
Yeah, I'd say you need to bring a picnic.
But
they've got a brilliant ice cream selection in there, so we're going to get an ice cream.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how old it is. And I'll know as soon as I
How
dig
old
into
it
it.
is?
Yeah, how long has it been sat in there?
Oh, it looks
If it's
okay.
full of ice crystals, then we're back in our knitting spot, because look, lovely birdies flying over the top. It is just so lovely. It's so private, you know. I can't fault it, to be honest.
It's just really beautiful. I could sit here for a long time, actually.
I'm going to try a bit of your nice cake.
I didn't make it.
No, I know.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's just Jamaica ginger cake. Can you get Jamaica ginger cake in other countries, I wonder? Is it made by McVitie's?
Can you get it in Jamaica? That's what I want to know.
Well, they probably make a ginger cake, but I don't know if you can get McVitie's Jamaica ginger cake.
I love it here. What a truly special place. You know, you go. Kate just said a moment ago, we were just chatting, and we were saying her first series of New Adventures went to Easby Abbey. Scored it very highly, really enjoyed it. It has that feel here, but it's way better. My goodness.
It's one of the nicest places I've ever been.
And it always comes down to how those places have lived their lives. And for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, this was, and really, it sort of really still is, because out there, in the same vicinity, are family homes. So, you know, through all the trouble and strife of the wars of independence, I mean, and if you think about the amount of issues that this part of the world has had, beginning with the Scottish Wars of Independence, but then moving into the dude that I can't stand the programme with the books and the stones and touching... Outlander.
The dude with the books. How do you get to Outlander from that?
But, you know, again, it's exactly the same trouble was going on. Through all of that time, you've got this lovely little place that's sort of stuck in it's like a time warp. You know, it's just beautiful.
It's the sort of place where if you lived here, you would very much feel like the outside world was not there.
You said brilliantly that the reason why it seems to have this extra special feel is because it's so far off the beaten track.
Yeah.
We've established obviously that you've got loads and loads of wonderfully historic places that people get drawn to really close to here. And so hidden gems like this just sort of get forgotten.
Because you wouldn't know it was here.
No.
So there's
You
no
need to
great
know
big
it's here.
signs
No,
or anything.
no. And even when you do know it's here, you can drive past.
Easily drive
Yeah.
past the sign. It's just a small sign. Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I do think for picnicability, we probably do have to say one off, just because you couldn't turn up here and not have brought something.
True, I suppose. Yeah. Unless you wanted just ice cream and chocolate for your lunch, which
Yes, we do know there are certain viewers.
Yeah, there are certain viewers.
You know who you are.
We're talking to you. You know who you are.
There's two people in particular I'm thinking of.
I'm thinking of one. I can't think of the
There's
other.
two. No, I'm
All
not
right.
saying. I wouldn't want to shame you. But you really would need to bring something. So you've got to take one off. So we go with a 9.
Yeah, 9.
But interest ability.
Well, it's got to be a 10 again, I think.
I wish I could give more than a 10.
Yeah. I think there's something. I think everybody would find something, interesting about it.
And there is nowhere, we have never been anywhere like this.
No,
And,
I don't think we have.
Well, we haven't.
No.
Because, this, whilst when it was built, it was a family home built at the wrong time in the wrong place. Actually, what it created was like this microcosm of homeliness. That the walls, yes, they were designed to keep out Scottish or English, coming in to try and take over. Well, it's kept that homeliness in, and I love that. So it's a 10, isn't it, for interestability?
Yes, I'd say.
You've got to plot it on the leaderboard, baby.
No, it's going to be high
It's
up
the
there,
top.
isn't it?
It's the top of the
It's
tree.
top?
It beats York. It beats York Castle, and rightly so, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that York Castle is a small place. It doesn't have 10% of the interest that this place has. York Castle really is just like, it would be as if just the manor house was here and nothing else around it. It'd be interesting to go visit, and it would be nice to go visit, but you wouldn't go rushing back
I think
again.
it's the thing that I really love about it is it is the setting. It isn't just a castle plonked in the middle of a field, like Dan said.
Yeah.
It feels like, you can actually see how people lived here.
Yeah.
And plus there are a couple of little houses, little cottages that you will have seen just outside the castle, and I think that's, people are still living in this area.
Yes.
That's what I really like, really love.
And that is the question that I think we need to answer before we finish today's adventure. How has this place stayed unchanged for so long? Let's go find out. Because Aydon Castle found itself in the eye of the Scottish Wars of Independence, its owner's focus understandably was on defending their home. The fighting that had started in 1297 was still going on 300 years later, when the King of Scotland became King of England. Now that did effectively end the war, but that wasn't the end of it even then. The Jacobite uprising followed with the infamous Bonnie Prince Charlie. So there was little point in knocking down your external wall to expand outwards when you never knew when an invading army might turn up to try and take control of your castle. So Aydon Castle became a living time capsule. The walls that had been built to keep the invaders out were now keeping the castle's inhabitants in. This clearly proved frustrating for its owners, who decided to make their home elsewhere. So the castle became home to successive tenant farmers, working the land that belonged to the estate built by Emma de Umfreville.
And that's exactly how things remained until 1966. And this was, and in fact still is, a working farm.
And that's what makes this place so special. Yes, it's seen its fair share of violence, but Aydon is still here, doing what it was built to do for the last 850 years. From the outside, this might look like a castle, but when you step inside, you find out that it's just a family home. We talk so often about the feel of places. Well, let me tell you that Aydon's is unique. From the outside, when you look at the walls, you expect it to feel powerful, like every castle we've ever visited. But when you step through these doors, you feel calm and at peace, because this is, and always will be, a family home.
So that's it. Another new adventure is over.
From its humble beginnings as a small medieval manor, to its days as a castle holding off the famous Braveheart.
Aydon Castle stands as a fitting testament to the power of the family home.
We'll see you next time for more new adventures.
After crumbs, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 episodes, we have finally found something worthy of the favourite places to knit badge. We should have a little badge and they should stick it on their website.
Yeah.
That'd be so great. Most definitely beats Jervo. And it beats it just because of the facilities.
Yeah. With Jervo, you have to. There's no facilities at the Abbey.
And by the time you've walked back to the facilities, you might as well go home.
It's not a huge walk by any means, but you know, if you needed the loo, it's a bit of a pain to trek back and then go back again. So if we ever need the loo, we just tend to just go home. You know, the facilities are much better.
Yes, and it also, I think what makes Aydon so perfect is its compartmentalised layout.
Yeah.
So, you know, each area is like in its own little area, and so you could put quite a few people there, because there was a few people there.
There was a few people there, yeah.
But at no point did you feel like they were on top of you.
No.
So, you know, and also as well, because of that compartmentalised layout and because of the high walls, because of the high tree line, as we said in the episode that you've just seen, even if the wind got up and the weather was slightly off, I think it would still feel quite sheltered. And also as well, I think what makes it so much more achievable as a favourite place to knit is it probably wouldn't take us that much longer, given the roads, because the roads.
Get there.
Yeah.
It took us an hour, didn't it, to get there?
Yeah, and Jervo would take us about the same.
Yeah.
Just because the roads are countrified and that is, you know, it's more direct. It's just wonderful.
It was lovely. I wish you could all go, because it was such a lovely place. I mean, there's no real gardens as such, but you know, there was the orchard, which was lovely, and then you can walk around the outside, as you will have seen, and they have planted all flowers, and there's a huge drop. We could hear the river, couldn't we? But I thought, where is it? We know it's somewhere down there, and then we got to one point and we could see it, and it's way down.
Yeah.
And it's all wooded and everything down there. It's really lovely.
Yeah.
We saw loads of big fat bees, which
did.
is always a good sign.
Yes. So, wonderful place, and, you know, a fitting top of the tree.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we shall look forward to going back.
We're going to take Bryony, definitely, in the summer, yeah.
Next episode, the Pudding Club is back. But the episode after that, New Adventures is back, and Robin's back from the Stitching Between Pages podcast.
I'm so excited.
Oh, yes. So lots to look forward to. And like we've said all the way through this series, we've tried to structure it in a way where we were constantly just building up and up and up. And, you know, the next one is we're going to be exploring the progress of Henry VIII when he went to York in 1546, I think it was, or 47. And it's just the best story ever. So that's all to come. But for now, we shall bask in the glory of Aydon Castle.
Absolutely.
And as we do that, we will discover what today's Endy Bits are.
Endy Bits already. I've got a couple more prizes to show you for the Summer of Sorcery knit along.
Oh, it's happening right now.
It is, and we've actually got loads of finished projects already. Somebody asked me actually, could they, do you know, because I did the bookmark for Dobby, and somebody said to me that they were knitting like 2 whole advent calendars, which I think is fantastic.
That's brilliant.
But they didn't know, they thought it was ridiculous to just put one as one entry. So I kind of thought, well, just thinking of the yardage, we decided that 10 of the little bookmarks probably equals about a normal pair of socks. So we will say that you can have 1 entry for 10 bookmarks for Dobby.
Cool.
I've got a couple of more prizes that have arrived. I've got some really pretty stitch markers that were sent from Karen. And she sent us a set each as well, so I can show you what they look like. Karen is Sunnyside Handmade, and she does these little wooden stitch markers. One of them's a progress keeper and one's a stitch marker. One of them's an owl, so it links in perfectly with the theme. The other one's a cute little sheep. They're like laser cut, I believe, but they're really sweet. So we've got 2 sets of those, lovely packaged. So they're from Karen, thank you so much. And she also gave us a coupon code for her shop. So if you use the code BBSOS2018, it's active from now until the end of August, 15% off. So that's sunnysidehandmade.com. So thank you so much for that, Karen. I believe she's in France. So lovely, lovely stitch markers. So that's 2 more prizes there. And then we just recently received the like little kind of like notion pouchy sort of things. The lovely lady's name, I'm so sorry if I've got your name wrong. I think it's either Carol or Coral. And she is a single strand studio on Etsy, and she makes bags and all kinds of things, but she produces this little sort of pouch. This is the one she sent for Dan with lovely Darth Vader on, and it's poppered, and you open it up, and inside you've got a space for double points just there, or circulars, you know, if you looped up the cable, and then there's little sort of pouches here for notions. You can clip your stitch markers onto here, and then it all folds up and poppers together. So she sent us one that I'm leaving all lovely and packaged. That's the prize.
Climb Every Mountain is still ongoing.
It is.
We have been lax just because of illness and episode 100, and we will be fully updating the mileage for the running and walking team, which is of course Team Cool, and the knitting team, which is of course Team Finds. And we will be giving you an update on that on the next pod. The next patron-only podcast live will be on the 24th of June at 2 p.m. British Summer Time.
Brilliant.
And we'll also, on that episode of the Pop, be awarding some quarterly prizes.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Yes, excellent.
Cool. So don't miss that.
Brilliant.
Show your lovely yarn.
I've just got one thing.
Yes.
And
looks nice.
yeah, it's another commercial sock yarn. I can't remember what prompted me to get this. I must have seen something on Instagram. Somebody had got it or was knitting with it or something. But this is by King Cole, and it's called Zigzag. And this is a replacement base. The one that they originally produced was a 50-50 wool and acrylic blend. This one, they've replaced it now with a 75-25 superwash wool and nylon, 420 metres. So it's more of your kind of standard commercial sock yarn, whereas the other one was 50% acrylic, which it never really appealed to me. But this I thought I'd give a try, and the colour I've got is bluegrass. But yeah, this is bluegrass. So I thought I'd give it a go. I liked the colours, and it looks like it will knit up quite interesting. It's blues and pinks and greens. And actually looking at it, it looks really nice and plump. Yeah.
It does. As soon as I saw that, I mean, it looked quite nice.
It looks quite nice.
Yeah.
And it feels nice and sort of squishy. It doesn't feel like a skinny kind of sock weight. So I'm interested to try this because it's a good price. And King Cole, actually, they're a UK company. It's made in Turkey, but I think a lot of yarn is kind of made in Turkey these days. But King Cole are a UK company, and they've been around for a long time. My mum always says that, you know, she used to knit with King Cole. So I'll give this a go and let you know.
Cool.
Yeah.
That that's it. We will see you in 2 weeks for episode 103, when Kay will be back with another amazing pudding. We know how much you all enjoyed the rather wonderful, I'm going to do my utmost to say this correctly, the summer berry meringue roulade. Is that correct?
That'll do.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Isn't summer berry roulade better? Or can you call it that? Or is that not quite right?
Well, it's the meringue part of
Right.
it, isn't it? Because the roulade could be sponge as well.
Right. And yes, she'll be back with another one next time. But in the meantime, I'll be continuing my DPN quest on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
We'll be trying out new coffee shops on Thursdays.
Oh, cool.
There'll be another journey to the centre of the yoke as well on the Thursday after. Loads going on. And of course, the dandelion socks came out.
Yes.
Yes. And that, of course, was a
Yes.
platinum pattern.
It was a platinum
But
pattern.
you are in the process. Is it two? Are you working on 2 patterns?
I am.
Wow.
Yeah, just normal, not platinum collection, just normal patterns. Yeah, I'm working on 2 designs at the minute, which
Cool.
is very exciting. One of them is more or less done. The other one I'm still working on.
Cool.
Yeah.
One of them's more or less done. Is that the one you're in the process of knitting up?
No, that's the one I was talking to you about this morning.
Okay. What about the one you're knitting up? You've been knitting one up.
Yeah,
Is that the one that's nearly done?
it's half done.
Oh, wow. Well, that's pretty good.
Right.
Where's it? Cool.
It's like talking in riddles.
So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for more.
Bye, everyone.
It's sitting and knitting, it's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and knit yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery